They say curiosity killed the cat. I killed the cat. Curiosity only brought her to me.
The first words that this game throws at you sounds like something that Dio would say from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Dio wants all of you, which raises some eyebrows, fortunately or unfortunately depending on how you interpret it. He clarifies that he doesn't want you dead yet. First and foremost, I want to point out how good the voice acting is, in particular the demon that calls you. The characters feel believable and they deliver their emotions very well. For example, hearing the snarkiness in the demon's voice, or the anxiety in Virginia, who we'll meet soon. You play as Desmond the therapist, and you have to go through your patient's trauma. Like any good therapist, we have to rummage through the patient's apartment. What we're looking for is a tape of the therapy sessions with the patient, and throughout this, we have to get shamed that she died under our care. It's a cool idea, and you might even find that the game used inspiration from your life to create the stories.
It's unbearable, isn't it? The pain of losing a patient. Virginia trusted you and she died because of it. What will you achieve by listening to her tape? Vindication, absolution, retribution for your misdeeds? Think about it.
They seem rather simple or silly on the surface level. For example, the first one that we deal with, Virginia, she's frightened by the new bigger grocery store that opened up that put the smaller one out of business. So it seems like it's just anxiety or a phobia of Walmart. I don't blame her. However, as you listen to the tapes and explore the site of the traumatic event, you discover so much more. While listening to the tapes, there's not much to see or do besides going to the next audio log and doing some parkour. Once you get into the grocery store, the game truly starts. You'll soon notice that there's a monster representing Virginia's trauma that you have to hide from and figure out how to deal with it. While doing that, you'll be discovering what went wrong with your patient through documents that give the public's view of the patient, and the rest of the storytelling elements like dialogue and gameplay tell the private life of the patient. It's a unique and interesting idea for a game, and it fits well with the horror genre. The guilt from failing patients and seeing what afflicted them serves as a good combination. As cool as it sounds, the game suffers from how there's nothing deep where you have to think about it. The whole story of each patient is spelled out through tapes and documents. There's even a file at the end of each case that summarizes the entire story that you experienced while going through the tape recording. So if you miss something or if you're just blowing through the story, you can read it and get everything that you missed. However, there is an overarching plotline that isn't summarized in the files. Plus the stories themselves are good, mainly the first one. The other ones kind of fall a bit flatter. Nonetheless, they're still worth paying attention to. One thing that I do have to mention before we go any further is that this game looks better and runs better than what I can show because my computer is almost a decade old and hasn't been upgraded. All of my settings are on low, however I can run other modern games just fine, so I'm leaning towards that this game isn't as optimized as it could be. Nonetheless, the lighting effects are well done whether you're crawling through a dark vent or seeing the moonlight illuminate the building through holes in the ceiling. A cool mechanic that they use the visuals with is the glass dagger, which outlines enemies and items when you look at the reflection on it. There are also writings on the wall that you can only see when looking through the reflection that sometimes give hints or just are there to give more immersion to the story. You get more weapons as you go along, such as a pistol, and there's a neat tutorial of finding the parts to that pistol that are hidden in the building, serving as a way to introduce you to the workbench and teaching you to look high and low for secret items. The workbench is only used to create the pistol, so it seems like an idea that was scrapped for like crafting or whatever. It is odd to leave it in because it seems like it'd be expanded upon later in the game, but it just isn't. And to be honest, crafting probably wouldn't work because the only things that you store in your inventory are key items and things like batteries and bullets, both of which are abundant. The only thing that might get tight are health items, which are just food scattered around the area, and you have to use them when you get it. You can't just store it into your inventory. There's really not much resource management to begin with. I played on hard, enemies can be easily avoided. As long as you're not playing like it's Serious Sam or you have awful aim, you'll be fine on ammo. The hard difficulty feels like normal, so if you ever played a game before, play on hard. In the beginning of the game, there's more hiding, item collecting, and easy puzzles than combat, but that reverses as you progress towards the end. If you are having a difficult time, then there are pills that serve as rewards for solving puzzles or finding them in hidden spots. They upgrade your stats, which are health, stamina, speed, and stealth. It only upgrades once you get enough of a particular one to satisfy your pill addiction, like your Lewis from Left 4 Dead. They do have a noticeable effect, but they're not game changers. The increments are small, however there are a lot of pills to find, which the game conveniently tracks for you. The puzzles that you have to do to get the pills or anything else do feel intuitive. They did a good job at making the solution feel natural and not some arbitrary task that seems out of place. Unfortunately, the documents that you can find spell out the solution or what to do. So there's not much to solve or think about, which is rather disappointing as it doesn't feel like you did anything yourself. You just followed instructions on a piece of paper like it's some Lego manual. The enemy variety is also pretty disappointing too. There's only 3 types of enemies, alongside one unique enemy for each chapter that is related to the patient's problem. Of course, all the enemies look the same too, except for the tape exclusive ones. One thing that does stand out is that the big lumbering enemy has some additional AI where he'll protect his head if you're aiming for it. The battle music sounds odd. It's like an electronic song, but it puts you out of the feeling of horror or adrenaline of being attacked. I'm not sure what tone they're trying to go for. Overall, the game is more lighthearted than gory, with the main antagonist making fun of you throughout the entire length. It's not a bloody horror game like The Evil Within. There are no cheap jump scares either where the game goes at you. The horror is neatly done, mainly in the beginning, because later on stealth mostly goes out the window as you approach the end game with new weapons and more open areas. There are also more enemies thrown at you at a given time, so much so that it sometimes feels like you're playing a painkiller game. I'm sure that these clips can sum it up. One thing to add on that might irk some people is that there's no way to manually save. You can only load in checkpoints, but they are frequent as long as you're progressing. Another technical problem is that the game crashed when I died missing a jump. Embarrassing, I know. I felt like Wile E. Coyote, but the game didn't have to stop me out of feeling sorry for me. In my defense, the jumping in this game sucks. It's like most of your forward momentum goes away. I died once to an enemy, which I got stuck inside of, and I died a handful of times to gravity. The ending is not fun. It's just running, jumping, avoiding flying explosive boxes, and putting tapes into record players. The jumping parkour part right before it is awful too because of how bad the jumping is. There were some parts that I wonder how you're supposed to make the jump without using the pill for extra speed. It's also a bit cliche with him going full anime mode with the my friends or my power type of thing. Overall, I enjoyed In Sane Mind, but it does have its issues. I love the premise of the game of exploring someone's mind and seeing what troubles them in a horror setting, but I wish the game went more into horror and less into action. The main antagonist is very enjoyable and has a great voice actor to pair with them. I recommend the game if it seems interesting, especially the first chapter because that's where the game is really at its best and where I hoped the game would have been the entire time, but unfortunately it didn't. That's it for this one. Hopefully you enjoyed the video and thank you for watching. See ya.